I don't know why, but I always feel like a rock star when I wear my jean jacket.
That is a really nice jean jacket, truth be told.
I actually wore this when I went to go see Neil Diamond in America.
We've had a nice break in June.
We have!
I am excited to be back on the camera and on the mic for season 3 because I miss this. It's nice to have the break. But I miss it when we're gone because I like seeing you every week and just having fun with you on camera.
Right. If I've had like a crappy day, like I always just feel better once we do this. And especially when we like have people we can talk to and learn more about our industry and our craft, then that is also so much more exciting. And I always love when we plan new seasons because then we are excited before the season even starts because we know what guests we're going to have on. So that is always exciting.
And this season we have some pretty awesome guests coming on. Some of them have reached out to us. Some of them we reached out to specifically because of what we love that they do. But it's going to be a good season.
Exactly. And in every episode, I always say, like, follow us, share, comment, and all those things. And please do email us, like, with questions that you have or topics you would love for us to talk about or guests you would think would benefit from being on the show or we would benefit from being on the show. Please reach out to us. Like, we love hearing from people. This is why we started this podcast, is to create a community and to feel less alone in what we do. So when you have a community behind you and when you have writers groups with you and people who listen to the podcast and people who interact with us, that always makes us feel fantastic and great, and that motivates us to just keep on doing it and sharing things with you.
And it helps us to make sure we're giving you the content that you need from us rather than just what we think would be cool. I have my tried and true apple cider today.
Lovely. I am coming in brave because it's winter and it's cold. And well, I always have tea, but now I'm in the mood for coffee because I was looking for something sweet and this is what I ended up with.
Let's get this new season rolling.
Hey ho, let's go. Hello everyone and welcome to Tea and Tales. I'm Madeline Einel.
And I am Sarah Sampson. Thank you to all of our listeners and viewers for joining us each week and for interacting with us on social media. We especially want to thank Tyra and Pyro. Today's episode is one that I think every new author would love to hear because today is the do's and don'ts of writing your first novel. I actually heard from a couple of people over the break who are saying, I've always wanted to write, but I don't know how to get going. We can really mess up our first novel if you jump into it with the wrong mindset. I don't mean for that to be a scary statement right there, but going into it with the right mindset is going to help you get to the end of it. Because when you start writing and you've got maybe a chapter or two and you're super excited, but then you hit that wall at chapter 4 or chapter 5 and you're not quite sure how to go forward and you realize 80,000 to 100,000 words is a lot of words.
Just a little. If I look back at my writing career, like writing my first novel has actually been my greatest learning experience, because if I look at a manuscript that I just finished and I go back to my first novel, I can actually see the growth that I've done and what I have learned from masterclasses, from writers groups, from beta readers, from all those things. And that is what I love about it. And I think a lot of people look at their first draft and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ever wrote like so horribly or I ever wrote this nonsense or anything like that. And I'm like, no, like this is such a fabulous thing because you can be like, oh my goodness gracious, that is not even a sentence. Like, what is that? And then you can look at your manuscript now and you're like, oh my goodness, look at this beautiful sentence. And it is so descriptive. Like, how? Wow, who did that? Oh, wait, that was me. So I think this is just a great episode for whether you're writing your first novel, whether you're writing your umpteenth novel.
And for those of you who are established writers, we would love for you to add into this episode your do's and don'ts, the things you've learned over the years that make writing that manuscript not only easier, but more fulfilling for you. So here's our list. This one is one of Nell's favorites. And when we used to write together, we would set timers for this. Do take breaks. Find what works for you.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of people call it sprints. And so I love it, but I can't do it as an individual. It never works because I always get distracted. And so it's great for myself when I do it in a group because I feel the pressure and I'm like, oh no, I have to write now. I love doing that because it sounds so simple, but it is so effective. I find it so beneficial because I would literally be like, okay, I want that coffee right now. But I'm like, no, I have to do this 20 minutes. If it's one sentence, I write. If it's 50 sentences, I write. Or if it's just watching a YouTube video because I have to see how Claire is made now because that's going to be in my novel. That also counts, I feel. Okay, I feel.
I absolutely agree. I will take breaks quite regularly. Even if I forget to set my timer, I will notice when my eyes are going away from the page and my brain is like, I don't want to put on another word. And I just get up and then come back and look at it with different eyes and different perspective. And there's something about that break in the middle of a writing session that lets my mind think about what it actually wants to do without the pressure of putting it into words at the same time. My favorite example of this was when we were all writing together. It was you and me and Claire. And I came back from one of the sprints and I thought, I know how this scene is supposed to go. And in that next 20 minutes, I wrote over 900 words.
I remember that one. Yeah, and I was just like, here's my 6 words. Thanks, Sarah.
I was so blocked before that moment. If you remember, I was writing maybe 300 words per 20 minutes. And without that break, I would not have been able to write the words.
You know what? Your body needs to move as well. Sitting in front of a computer is also not, well, it's not good for your eyes, but it's also not good for your body. So even if it's just like walking up and down the hallway or anything like that, like just to get the blood flowing again, and then you can go sit down.
And I want to add in here Anika Fleegen's amazing advice that she gave back in season 1. She would make herself a time goal and a word goal. I will write for this much time or this many words. And that way, if she reached the words early, she was done. But if she hit the time limit first, she didn't stress herself over that last 100 words. She just let herself go and take the break that she would need. So she didn't stress herself out and she didn't burn herself out.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. So get in a chair and write every single day. It can be 5 sentences, it can be 2 minutes, but have the consistency of telling yourself that, you know what, like every single day, you have to eat breakfast. Make it a point to be like, every single day I'm going to write something, whether it's to work on a synopsis, whether it's to work on a query letter or to work on a next scene. Because if you sit down and you write something every single day, then your body, your mind will become so used to it that if you don't do it, it will feel like, oh my gosh, like something is missing and I don't know what to do with myself. And at the end of the day, like if every day you just write 5 words, by the end of the month, you will have 150 words more than you would have had if you didn't write every single day. And I understand, you know, our lives are so busy these days and we have family and we have jobs and we have responsibilities and extracurricular activities and events and all those things. I will take myself for an example. Writing is something I do for myself. Writing is something I do that I love and it brings me joy. And I think every person needs that one thing that is just theirs. It is for their enjoyment, and take the time to actually do it. I am guilty of actually not writing every single day. I do put up my hand for that. If you just get in the mindset of doing that, you will get a lot farther than you were the day before.
I think sometimes we feel like this means you have to sit down and write the same manuscript every single day. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is to be in the seat working every day. For people like myself, who I don't work on Sundays, well, what does that mean? If I'm not working on Sunday, does that mean I'm not writing on Sunday? And the answer is no. I don't write my manuscript I'm working on. I write something else. Maybe I'm going to write something fun that day, or I'll decide to write in my journal that day, or I'll decide to do some other kind of fun and creative writing that's completely different. It still gets me into a writer, pen on paper, but it gives my brain a break as well to start thinking about things. And honestly, Sunday is the day I've gotten some of the most amazing things for my manuscript, and I'll be like, oh, that would work so well. So I jot the idea down, and then I go into Monday with all these amazing ideas for the week to do with my manuscript, because I took that day to let my brain wander to other paths. And that's okay too. You are still getting into your chair, you're still writing, you're giving yourself that habit of getting words down and being in the mind space you need to be in.
When we say get in a chair and write something every single day, preferably the same time every day, it doesn't mean I have to open up my laptop, I have to write. You can journal in a novel. You can be on your phone and go to notes and write something there. You can have sticky notes like scattered all over your room and just make notes there. Like, it doesn't matter in which shape or form you do it, just that mindset of writing or being present in the moment and doing what you are set out to do to reach that goal that you want to achieve.
And if you're like me with children in the household that toss up your schedule every day so you can't pick a same time every day, get yourself onto a schedule. Perhaps on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm writing at 7 a.m., but on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm not writing until 10. That's okay.
Yeah, very true.
This is one we've actually talked about in some previous episodes as well. So I'm not going to go super in depth in it, but looking for inspiration. You want things in your life that are going to inspire the writing. So find what things in your life do that. Maybe it's research. Maybe it's reading, writing craft books. That doesn't do it for me, but I know people that it works.
Maybe it's just watching a movie.
Maybe. Or taking a walk, or doing the dishes, or cooking something.
Exactly.
Or going somewhere like Nell likes to do.
I do like to go places, see new things, taste new food. Brings up a lot of inspiration. I think I did say it in a previous episode, we are our worst enemy. And I almost want to say we'll never be satisfied with any work that we do. And so to write what comes to mind, no matter the quality of the writing, is so important, because you can work from a first draft. You can't work from a blank page. It is actually fantastic if your first draft isn't perfect, because who are you then? Like, are you Shakespeare? I think just scribbling down any thought, any sentence, any quote, any lyric that like hits you and like finds you. A lot of times I will be on Instagram or like Facebook, and then I would see like a meme or a little like photo post or something like that. But I'm just like, even if you just save a meme, because you're like, that inspiration hit me. And then one day when you have nothing to do in life and you just go through your gallery to look at all your pictures, then you find it again and you're like, really, I found something useful from there, and maybe it sparks another idea for you.
And free writing it. Don't worry about the punctuation and spelling. Just get the words on the page. All of that comes later in edits, and your words are going to change so much from draft to draft to draft. So keep going through, and maybe you'll write things that you completely cut later, because I went way into exposition over here, but it will keep the story moving in your own mind.
You know what I actually love about this? People writing their first novel is so lucky. I'm like, they know nothing about like line edits or like passive words or anything like that. They just write because they love to do it. And I'm like, that is such an amazing thing to experience. It's like reading a book for the first time, and you just like experience everything for the first time. I'm at a point where I'd be writing something and I'm like, there was da 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 da. And as I'm writing it, I'm like, that's not correct. I will have to fix that. But luckily, I've trained my mind to not fix it at the moment. You have this whole free space in front of you that you could just write everything that your heart desire, and you don't have to think about punctuation. It's fantastic.
And it's so freeing. And I try to tap into that every time I start a new novel. And as a pantser, it's really easy to do that, because I'm literally starting with, ooh, this idea is cool. Let's see where it goes. But I try to tap into that whenever I write something new and just write. I don't care about the quality. I don't care about the character arcs. I don't care if there's plot holes. I just do it. And it helps me so much to come up with cool new things, because I'm giving my mind that permission to be imperfect, that permission to just have fun with it.
1000%.
Yes. So our last to do, I highly suggest to create what's called the book Bible. We've talked about this in season 1, so you can go more in depth there. But this is basically a document or some other way to record details you don't want to forget. Writing up your character sheets, writing out spreadsheets, using different ways like rough drawings and stuff. I wanted to pull two of them out for me as examples. So this is my book Bible for the very first novel that I wrote. And you can see in it, it has, don't read the words because they're terrible, terrible writing. This is the first draft of my first chapter. That is no longer the first chapter. And some drawings that I did while I was preparing that draft. I want to show you guys, if you are listening rather than seeing, I'm sorry. Maybe you can get onto YouTube later and see it. This is one of my more recent projects that I have been doing. A lot of this, not on paper anymore, but online, where I have a spreadsheet. And this spreadsheet has all the character names, but also everything that I discover about them as I write. So later, if I reference it, I can go back and it makes it a lot easier for me for the world building that I come up with. Let's write down that idea and how I fleshed it out so that I can see how things are working together.
I love that you do that because you have it in your drive. You can literally be anywhere in the world and you can just open up your drive and it is there for you to reach out and get it whenever you want to write. I, on the other hand, love my sticky notes. Like, sticky notes are my friend. And so, funny enough, also for my first novel, I didn't do any sticky notes and I didn't have any, almost want to say, folders to help me to be like, their eyes are blue, not gray, or they are in Minnesota, not in Utah, or anything like that. And so when I started my second novel, I actually started with sticky notes, and it was such fun because then I also had a timeline. And so as my timeline moved in my story, as I kept on editing, I could move the sticky notes around. But then with my third novel, because it was more technical in a sense, because it's a baking show, like the pile got a little bit bigger and the sticky notes got a little bit more. The problem just with sticky notes is I'm kind of confined to my room. Like, what I did do though is, like, I would take a plastic bag, like one of those file bags, and then I would just chuck all my sticky notes in there. I'll just carry it in my laptop bag with me everywhere I go. There's different ways. Every person is different, but I 1000% agree with that, because, and especially if you are like Sarah, where you write series, it is so important to have those notes.
Yeah. I've heard some of the big authors have people who their entire job is to go through the manuscript and write things down like hair color, eye color, height, weight, all those things, that details they put in. And when they edit the novel, all that single person does is check everybody's eye color and make sure that those things are appropriate in the book. And I can't wait till I'm a big enough author to get somebody else to do it for me. When you're writing that first novel, those are the kinds of details that are going to bog you down and are going to be hard. And you want to find the way that works for you and your thought processes and your writing processes. If you're more of a planner, maybe you get more into the specific character sheets and things like that. And if you're a lot more of a pantser, maybe you just kind of throw it together as you go along, like I do.
Which then leads us to don'ts. Not a very negative don'ts, just like not preferred kind of vibes we are having here. Don't try to be perfect. Whether it's in your first draft or your creative process, just be free. Like, just open your mind and open your creativity and just let the juices flow. Because I think that is the kindest thing you can do to yourself, or do for yourself and for your writing and for your characters. It's just to let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Of course, I had to do a Beatles in there.
Absolutely. And that connects with one of my other don'ts of, don't treat this like it's a homework assignment or a work project. I feel like that is the kind of mindset that gets us into trying to do it perfectly the first time. You're going to create an unrealistic expectation for your writing, especially if it's your first novel. It is not going to be perfect no matter how hard you try. I'm sorry, that may sound blunt. Please don't get your feelings hurt. There's so much that goes into a novel that we as a writer are blind to. We don't know how that reader is going to read what we wrote, even if we think we wrote it perfectly. Your beta readers are going to show you where you missed things. And so putting that extra pressure on yourself is not only going to make it harder to get through your first draft, but it also makes that feedback hit harder, because you try so hard to make it perfect when they tell you it's not. you're going to feel crumpled inside. If you are honest with yourself, you know, I have the time. I don't have to turn this into anybody tomorrow. There is no teacher who is going to judge this. There is no boss who is going to critique this. I can just do me. That takes a lot of the pressure off.
Right, but also then, I'm like, if you write your first novel and it's perfect from the get-go, what's the fun in that? I feel also like with every edit that you do, with every draft you go through, you actually get to learn your characters better. You actually get to learn the storyline better, and you find so much more depth for your characters and for your story arc and things like that. So it's a journey, Hasty. Just enjoy the ride. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey that you go on with your writing. Okay, which gets me to small details. Yeah, I'm a sucker for that one. Well, especially because I like beta reading, and so naturally, I always do the small details, which is what beta readers are for, so don't worry about it. This is a little tip for you to make that writing process a little bit easier so you don't get hung up on the small details. When you write your novel, and you have no idea what season you're in, you have no idea what coffee shop you're in or whatever, or what name you want to give for a character, all you have to do is do this one thing. Write TK right next to each other. So you're going to be like, she is wearing TK. And then go on with your sentence. Because then, once you go to your next draft and you start doing your edits, you just type in TK. Because you don't find English words that have TK right next to each other. So all the TK words will come up. And then you can start giving your skeleton some meat. And then you can start putting in those little details that you wanted to put in. So to help you for that juices to just flow and for your creativity and your story to just flow.
Yes, and especially when I think it'd be amazing if I could figure out a way to signal this earlier or foreshadow this better earlier. Then I do the same thing. I will mark it and I'll write in my margin notes or something that says what that thought was, that I need to go back and add this in my edit. And then I keep flowing. My alpha readers, my critique partners, they know very well that they're going to be going through a scene and they're going to hit something that says brackets, so-and-so's mom, bracket.
Same.
They're going to run into things like that and they just ignore it. They know I'll come back to it later. Then our next don't is do not try to incorporate every writing technique that you know. They might be great techniques and they might make for fantastic writing, but if you're trying to incorporate everything you know about writing, about character development, about foreshadowing, red herrings, trying to add all that stuff in, to me, that is a inspiration killer. If I am focusing too much on the craft and not enough on discovering my story, and making a story work, that first draft is going to get stuck in chapter 3 because I start worrying I'm going to self-doubt and I'm going to doubt everything I have written and my ability to continue to write. And then I don't write. So instead, I think, okay, oh, wow, look at this chapter. I am doing this technique super well in this chapter, but I don't try to do all of it at the same time when I'm trying to create the actual story.
If you overthink it so much, then it's just going to start sounding clinical. And then you're going to read your novel and you're like, what is this? This is horrible. Because yes, you were overthinking it. You were trying to put everything all in at once. And that's not what your first draft is supposed to be.
And I want to say as well, if you go back and you do find that you're writing clinically, that's okay too. You're allowed to write badly.
That's how you learn. So for our last one, to pigeonhole or try to copy someone else's process or style. So, I mean, I think throughout this episode, we have mentioned like few tricks that you can do. We've mentioned our way of writing our novels, and that by no means mean that you need to do the exact same thing that we are doing. Because Sarah and I are two different people. We live in two different countries. We have two different schedules. We speak two different languages. Don't try to feel pressured. Like I know a lot of times you will see, I don't know, Brandon Sanderson on Instagram or You will see a quote from Stephen King, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is his writing technique. I have to follow this religiously, or I have to do this exact same thing. But he doesn't live the life you live. None of our brains work the same way. So you're just going to discourage yourself if you try to fit in someone's style or someone's schedule exactly the same way. And you will get frustrated when you can't do it. And then you will think, oh my gosh, this is not worth it, because why can't I do it the way a very famous writer does it? And that is not the point. The point is, find something that works for you. And yes, it will come with time. So you have to try many things. And that is also why writers groups are so great, because so many people have so many different ways of doing things. And yes, there are general things that work for a majority of people, but don't feel confined to doing something exactly the same way as someone else does.
And having said that, however, I do suggest trying it. Give it the shot to see if it works for you. But if it doesn't, don't think it's because you're a terrible writer. That is not right. What it is it's just a technique that does not work for you. It's why I struggle as a mentor to give people resources. It's not saying this is the way I do it and it's the best way to do it, but saying here's all the options. Let's try one until it works for you. Pick a piece here, you pick a piece there, and you develop your own way of doing it that is unique.
You will have many people giving you many advice of how to do this and how to do that. You will figure out what works, what doesn't work. So it's a journey once again.
Yes. So if you don't completely finish that first novel because you got stuck, happens to people all the time, it's okay. Move forward with something else. And eventually you're going to figure out that process that works for you and get through a whole novel and go back to those old ones and finish them. You'll see the fruit of your labors over years. It may not happen in the 2 months that you're hoping to write a book.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that literally happened to me because I was writing a novel in COVID time that got to like 23,000 words, but then I got a different job, and then I moved to the Netherlands and I was working there, and then this idea just popped into my head and I was like, I have to write this thing right now. So that 20,000 words just stayed there, and I wrote this whole new novel, and I was like, okay, goodness, I finished it. And then I was like, still kind of do have that novel, so let's pull that one back up here, and that's the one that I'm currently working on.
Exactly. So if you take nothing else from this episode, please remember, writers write first. Everything else comes as you go. As long as you're writing something, you are moving forward as a writer. I just use the word write a lot. We like to keep things short here on Tea and Tales. Get your fingers back on the keyboard and your pens back on paper.
So if you want to go on this journey with us and you want to follow us and share with your writer friends and comment and any other thing that you can possibly think of to do, then go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Tea and Tales Podcast, and on Twitter/X and TikTok at Podcast Tea Tales. And go to that purple icon on your device and go give us 5 stars and comment on what your approach is to writing your first novel and help us to go up, 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 up to the top.
Happy writing.
Bye.